So despite the rapidly changing times and legalization of same-sex marriage in all 50 states, members of the LGBT community still face discrimination on a daily basis. If elected, how would you support the LGBT rights, and what steps would you take to ensure that the rights that we have already gained are protected?
Well, I think that one of the things that has to happen, which I will not be able to do anything about except for vote for president, is to make sure that the Supreme Court appointees are people that understand that we're a country that wants to move forward and secure the blessings of liberty and ensure them for everybody. There is still discrimination in many places, not just for LGBT, but we'll stay focused on that. And I think that we need to make sure that our laws that are being passed take that into consideration. And I think that being a spokesperson and helping that community reach out and make sure that people understand that we're all Americans, we're all together, we're indivisible, would be helpful as a role model in that issue.
So maybe, I'll tell you what, this is an interesting situation in which I find myself, and here's why. When I decided that I was going to carry the bill that would eliminate the ridiculous draconian government overreach that banned all but the most traditional acts of intimacy between a man and a man, or a man and a woman, or a woman and a man, a lot of people said, you can't do that. You know, you're conservative and yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, we from, I think, 19 until July 1st, 2014, had a law on the books in Virginia that banned, and I quote, crimes against nature. I didn't write the law. I think the wording in and of itself is offensive, candidly. But I knew it was on the books, and I knew that it was a gross overreach, and I knew that Patty Ticer, a Democrat from Northern Virginia, had carried a bill analogous to mine in 2006, and it died. That the General Assembly of Virginia would not concede that adults not for pay in privacy could engage in whatever acts they choose to engage in. And so I caught some heat. But you know what? Leadership means not worrying about catching heat when you know what you're doing is right. And so that's the kind of congressman I think. Ultimately, that was a real change that helped the Virginians towards equality under the law. And I'm proud to have done it, and I'll continue to lead in that regard.
Sticking with the theme there that you brought up, Tom, of kind of moving away from your particular political party, you each are running with the backing of a political party. I'm just curious if you could each identify one area of policy where your views diverge from the majority of those within your party.
I go first. I can name two. I cannot begin to blame anyone who comes to this country illegally. The blame falls on the people in Washington, D.C. who recognize that the system that we have is filled with laws that we won't enforce, we choose not to enforce, right? Deferred actions means we're going to ignore the law. And it ignores the reality on the ground. In order to solve problems, you have to identify problems. So the immigration policy that both parties have been guilty of perpetuating, shame on both of them, right? And secondly is marijuana policy. 10 years as a prosecutor and 6 as a soldier. I know one thing, and that is if justice isn't blind, folks, justice isn't justice. And so if a young person's driving on the road in Virginia and they're pulled over with 10 pounds of marijuana in their truck, I promise you they may end up in federal prison. That same young person can be driving down the road in any number of states. Colorado comes to mind with that 10 pounds of marijuana and be sent on their merry way. That is unjust. Further, I worked as the chief Republican advocate on behalf of the medical marijuana bill that Dave Morris, the Democrat, carried in the Virginia General Assembly 2 years in a row. Do you know why we had trouble getting it passed? Not because people couldn't agree that it was good policy, that the cannabinoid oil extracts help children with intractable epilepsy, amongst others, but because the federal government says it's illegal and our pharmacists are afraid to carry it because our pharmacists are afraid of going to prison. And so both parties need to make sure that they're willing to take the stand, they'll encourage to do what's right, even when it's not politically expedient. I have, folks, and I will.
I think that it's less a disagreement about policy as a disagreement about method. The National Democratic Platform has some wonderful ideas about things and initiatives that we should consider to work on a better America. And I think they're very idealistic, and I think things that are practical except for one thing: how do we pay for them? And I think that if I disagree with my party on anything, it's before you can propose new programs, you need to know where the money's going to come from. It may come from things that we're already spending money on that we don't want to spend money on anymore. It may be from the fact that we decide that we're going to negotiate out how it's going to look, but there was very little in the platform about how to pay for things at this time. And so I would say it would just be, I need to focus in on how you balance your budget. I've got an extensive business background. I'm not going to be able to get away from that when I look at legislation that comes with a price tag.
Back to our panel.
The 5th District is replete with Civil War statuary, much of it signifying the lost cause and the sacrifices of another century. Today we contemplate the meaning of those statues and wonder if the lessons remain relevant or appropriate. How do you personally feel about this public art history?
I think that each era has its art. When you go to the National Museum of Art, you see statues dating back to Greek times, Roman times. So the art itself is beautiful here in Virginia from all of our periods, including the Civil War. What we're faced with right now, what we're struggling with, what our localities are struggling with, is what to do with statuary that creates the illusion that that was a time where people should feel good anymore. We have many people that feel when they look at, for instance, here in Charlottesville, a statue of Robert E. Lee, that diminishes their feelings for our country. So I know the General Assembly has a struggle coming up because we have localities like Charlottesville that may want to move their statues. As far as Appomattox, for instance, it's really part of their integral storyline. So I think it's locality by locality, and I think we need to be sensitive, and I've become more sensitive to the fact that certain people looking at statues, it hurts them very much.
The clock? Okay. I don't want to cheat. Those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And history contains elements upon which we should stake pride. And history contains elements that should stir sentiments of shame. But history's not changed by removing history. So, I think, and I believe it was Elliot Harding who suggested that perhaps in Charlottesville a statue of Julian Bond there in the park alongside that of Robert E. Lee would be a good place to start. I want to take this opportunity to expand on one of my real heroes, and that's Barbara Johns, who in Prince Edward County in 1952 saw the brand new white high school and understood that the tar paper shack seated by wood-burning stove teaching black students grades K through 12 were in no way, shape, or form separate but equal. That is a joke on its face. Now, there were 4 cases rolled into the Brown versus Board of Education case. The only one that arose from a student-led uprising, a 16-year-old girl, Barbara Johns, saying this isn't right and taking action to lead a protest was right here in Virginia. And how many of you had never heard of Barbara Johns? Just like Patrick Henry, who said, give me liberty or give me death, Barbara Johns is an American hero and she belongs to every one of us, black and white, and we can start building statues to people like Barbara Johns.
Each of you has served on the local and or the state level, but now you're looking to serve on the federal level. As an educator, as a college president, I'd like to know how you view the federal role in K-12 and higher education. What is the federal role as opposed to the state and local role?
So we talked earlier about enumerated powers, and I will tell you that the federal government, and as they change, we can't just shut them down. The federal government takes in more revenue than any other government at any other level, and ultimately the federal government can be helpful with K-12 education by virtue of funding. But in Virginia, where with some noteworthy exceptions. We have excellent K-12 schools every single year in the top 10 in the nation. And understand that any federalization of K-12 ed moves Virginia back towards the rest of the pack. And so we make pretty darn good decisions here in Virginia on how to educate our children. What I think is that if the federal government will let us have the resources with which to work and get out of the way, we can continue to make those good decisions. Now, let me expand on that for a moment. Where we know that our schools are failing our children, and where the Democrats in the Virginia General Assembly have for year after year after year said, and I quote Dick Sasslaw, well, we have to do something, but this isn't it when we start to advance school choice initiatives, and yet never proposed any alternatives. We need that party of obstruction to get out of the way. If there's anything unsustainable in this nation, it is for a young person to grow up in a community where they understand that they are hamstrung by their very zip code and a parent not to have the ability to do anything to help them. And so the federal government continued to push funds down, but anything they do to direct us how to use them will make us closer to average, and we're well above that right now. And we need to reform how we create opportunity for those of us in the most challenged neighborhoods.
So the question was the role of the federal government with regard to K through 12 education, as well as higher ed. I think that first, if we're talking about higher ed, the federal government is an important role in terms of helping with grants and loans for students that are trying to be educated. As far as policy and oversight, I think that the federal government has to be a good partner with state government and sometimes directly with local government in all things. In education, one of the things that Ann Holton, who is our immediate past Secretary of Education, shared with me is that we have the ability to look at the entire globe at the federal level. We have the resources through the Department of Education to see how school systems around the world are operating to keep us very competitive, where it's unlikely that a local school system or even a state can look that broadly. I think also we need to look at failing school systems, and if the state can't make that change, then we need to have oversight from the federal government. As Tom said, I don't think education should depend on the zip code where you live. We need our students educated well, and we need strong higher education to invest in human intellectual capital.
This is just a question for Senator Garrett. Over the weekend and today, many Republicans have pulled their endorsements for Donald Trump in light of the video that was released on Friday. Where do you stand in your support of Donald Trump?
You know, I really admire what Governor Pence has done, and probably a tougher circumstance than I'm in. We have condemned the statements of Mr. Trump fully. They're indefensible. Having said that, ultimately, though, there's a binary choice on November 8th, and that's what plan is better for America, and I would say that I still believe that the Republican vision is a better vision. What bothers me is that Ms. Clinton once defended a rapist of a 12-year-old girl who was convicted and then laughed at the 12-year-old child. She's lost 33,000 emails. Testimony is that she's destroyed, or had people destroy with hammers, 13 different electronic communications devices. That begs the question, what do you have to hide? Cattle futures, Whitewater, 17 people went to prison, including Jim Guy Tucker, the immediate following governor of Arkansas. 2 judges went to prison. My 17-year-old says she can't respect Ms. Clinton because she's aided and abetted in all the behavior that Bill Clinton engaged in that is abhorrent and denigrates women like herself. And I can assure you, to her father's chagrin, she's no rock-ribbed conservative. And so I suppose the question I would have is how one can stand by Ms. Clinton. And I would say that while you gave a question just to me, perhaps Ms. Dittmar could tell us, does she still support Ms. Clinton, who laughed at the 12-year-old rape victim?
Ms. Dittmar, your response?
What
90
is-
seconds.
I'm not responding to his question. What is the question from our panel?
I asked specifically where he was with his support of Donald Trump.
Where he is with his support of Donald Trump, and I'm supposed to answer that.
Well, you can answer why
I would hope that he would, like other Republicans, have finally reached the tipping point where this man is not acceptable to him anymore.
And I would repeat the
That's what I-
question, can you support somebody less?
Please don't interrupt, Ms. Dittmar.
So if I'm answering about what I would hope Tom would believe, that's what I would believe. That's what
I
I
would
would
clarify too that I asked him directly that question. I think you should answer about your support of Hillary.
I'm happy to do that, but that wasn't what you asked me to answer. Okay, I supported Hillary Clinton. Yes, I support Hillary Clinton. And I want you all to know a reason why I think passionately she should be our next president. When I'm elected and I go to Washington for you, there is so much work to be done as your representative, not only for the work that we hope to do here in the district, but also in addressing the challenges that have been unmet by a dysfunctional Washington. I need a stable country, I need a stable world in order to concentrate on those responsibilities. Hillary Clinton may not be transformational enough for some of you, but at least she's experienced, at least she will create and continue stability, and she will let us look at some of the challenges that we need to address and get those jobs done. I also think that we need to think about the fact that the things that Tom Garrett just said were so unfair. He didn't speak about his support for Donald Trump because he doesn't want to speak about his support for Donald Trump. He was willing to say that what Donald Trump said was inappropriate, but is that all it was? Isn't there a huge pattern of disenfranchising many people, many groups, women all over the country? So yes, he had to divert that answer immediately as possible to Hillary Clinton.
Since you were mentioned, you have 30 seconds to respond.
When I was a little boy, my mom said, "Sticks and stones will break my bones." You all know the rest. Donald Trump has said some very indefensible things, and I want to be clear. Hillary Clinton has done some very indefensible things. 13 electronic communications devices smashed with a hammer. 30,000 emails that we'll never know what they say, but probably the Russians do. Forsaking the security of the nation for her own security, that's not who we need leading this country, and I'd ask Ms. Sidmar how she supports that candidate.
All right, I think our time is up there. Let's go back to our panel.
So we are very aware that our country is rich in natural resources. What is your position on harnessing those resources and possibly pushing the U.S. to the forefront of the clean and renewable energy movement?
So resources in general, not specific.
Natural energy resources, wind, solar power.
I know about clean renewables. All right, harvesting, okay. Why don't you repeat that question?
What is your position on harnessing those natural...
Harnessing, not harvesting.
Yes.
Harnessing, thank you. I don't need you to repeat it now. Yes, if you are interested in more detail, I have, as part of my environmental security plan, a real focus on clean and renewable energy sources. We have right here in the Albemarle County area, Apex Wind. We have companies that are working on solar. We've just had several solar farms approved by local government in the district, so it's going to create jobs here. We cannot go entirely reliant on clean and renewable energy sources at this time. We will obviously need to bridge ourselves for a while, but if we allow that technology to continue to grow through good policy, I think that we will be able to generate all the energy we need sometime later in the century and be completely rid of our need or reliance on fossil fuels.
So it goes beyond simply clean energy, it goes to renewable energy, and I like it because we are America, by gosh, we lead the world, we do it almost in our sleep, we always have, and with the right leadership, I can promise you, we always will. But the reason that we haven't closed down the carbon fuels gap yet, and this is important, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for me to speak to people, is because we don't have the storage capacity, right? When the wind stops blowing, when the sun stops shining, we don't have giant batteries that allow us to capture that, but we will. But we will. In the meantime, I think a real problem that Washington and some people here run into is presuming that everything is a zero-sum game. In other words, we want to reduce our reliance on coal. You've got a presidential candidate, Ms. Clinton, who said she wants to end coal. President Obama has declared war on coal. We can downgrade the use of coal without destroying the industry and an entire way of life and thousands of jobs in Southwest Virginia, right? And so you don't just turn one switch off and turn another on. What you do instead is you turn one switch up higher as you have the technological ability to do so while you turn the other one down low. And that's, I think, where the Democrat Party's failed us. We will get to the point where wind and solar and tidal energy, which I think is pretty darn exciting because it doesn't obstruct our rivers like water power does, are the way of the future. But until we have that storage capacity, we're not there yet. We need to think in the here and now and in the future, and then we'll solve America's energy problems and be a global leader.
Just to pivot off the question that Val asked a moment ago about one of the major storylines that emerged this weekend in the national political race, I wanted to ask you, Ms. Ditmar, if you had any type of response or any concerns about the story that came out over the weekend about Mrs. Clinton and the excerpts of the speeches that were purportedly released by WikiLeaks, in which she was quoted as talking about open trade and open borders, and also concerned about, or she was, I should say, mentioning, I do apologize, I had something here in my mind that I wanted to kind of ask you on the cuff. But do you have any concerns about those excerpts of the speeches? The one thing I was going to ask was she asked about, or she mentioned in those speeches that she believed that you should have a public stand on issues and a private stand on issues.
I think in rotation, that first goes to Tom.
Well, but this is specifically for you. I had the question specifically.
Oh, yeah.
The question was asked about.
Before, he can ask that of you, but before we answer, we need to go to a 1 minute clock, please, because it's almost time to end our first hour. So
Right.
1 minute on that.
All right, so your question was a little bit,
I
I think what you were asking was, do I think we should have private and public views, and what did I
Well,
think
yeah, I
Hillary
don't know if you had a
Clinton's-
response to that specific storyline that emerged this weekend, just about
Sure.
the excerpts of the speeches that came out that were viewed by some as being potentially damaging to her.
Sure, well, I think it was completely overshadowed by the tape that came out on Donald Trump. It was easy almost not to pay attention to the speeches that were released, or at least transcripts. I was concerned, I haven't read them, that perhaps she was talking about way too unregulated a Wall Street. I think we've just come off a great recession where we learned a lot about letting Wall Street regulate itself or not have oversight. So I'd like to read them. I was kind of captivated, like the rest of the country, on the unbelievably bad rhetoric that came out of Donald Trump.
No. Please, ladies and gentlemen, hold all your noise till we're all done. Mr. Garrett, I'll give you 1 minute. What did you think about the news that came out about Mrs. Clinton?
I was absolutely shocked and befuddled that Hillary Clinton might say one thing to one group and another to another. No, seriously, and I feel badly for my opponent having to defend that sort of behavior, but it's par for the course. It's par for the course. You got Mrs. Clinton talking about a vast right-wing conspiracy, right? I mean, Bill Clinton's been accused by 21 different women of inappropriate sexual conduct, ranging from groping to rape. Does Bill Clinton have more accusers or Bill Cosby? I'm not sure who. I'm serious. Could somebody check that one? But it was a vast right-wing conspiracy, and none of it was true right up until they found the stain on the dress, and then she had to backpedal, right? And so the fact that Hillary Clinton would say one thing to one group and then another thing to another is par for the course for Ms. Clinton. And exactly why, while I find Mr. Trump's comments to be deplorable, I think her actions probably speak louder than his words.
All right, thank you everyone, and thank you to our panel. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, please stay quiet until the debate is over. We are about to go to a 2-minute break, and we're going to end our broadcast here on CBS 19. We will be continuing online. You can stream the rest of this debate on newsplex.com. We've got it up there, and we'll have it for the next hour or so. We're going to continue in the next hour with questions from our student panel. This will be a group of students from PVCC, and they will be asking questions from our candidates. So thank you for joining us for the live television portion of our broadcast this evening, and please join us online in 2 minutes.
I'm good, yeah, I'm good. I just know. Just don't look at my dress.
Just come here with it. Do I need to go out? Okay. I'm just walking around, stretch my legs.
It's actually kind of nice to have a 2-minute break.
Oh my god,
I
yeah.
actually prefer it.
Something like say, like in the hour.
I know. But what do you think?
The James people are like incredibly rude, talking the whole time. But I mean, what else would you expect?
Sorry, sir. I feel like I should.
Just like scoot it back a little bit. There, people can get through from there.
Yeah, it feels good to see.
I think they had good questions.
Yeah, they were.
Good questions. Good answers.
Yeah, so far so good.
I don't know if I was a fan of the whole one-word answer. I guess they were trying
I
to
thought
lighten
it
the
was
mood.
cute. I thought it was cute. I liked it. It was fun. It was a nice breather.
Oh, they did that. Didn't they do that in the Republican debate or
Did
something?
they?
They did something like that, and Donald Trump like got on Jeb for it.
Oh, yeah.
The love of my life, Jeb.
Where are you sitting? Oh, yeah. Good, how are you?
Oh, I knew. I didn't know how long it was until I got here. And I'm like, okay,
Wait, how long is it?
2 hours.
Oh, so it's 9. They're normally an hour and a half.
So I guess we're
I
gonna get
guess
back
he was
like
thinking like presidential debates.
well, how long's cleanup gonna take? Be back.
I don't think there's much clean. Oh, we gotta pick up all the signs.
Or we can just send the crew out and just get it started.
Really? I mean, like, it won't take that long. There's a lot of us.
And really, most of them are a straight line anyway. Like once in the parking lot, and then they'll just walk straight, pull them out.
Yeah, it won't take too long. Oh, that's what I told her, yeah. No, they can't. Yeah. It's so unfair. Really? Wait, what did she do? Why is she being next time she doesn't want to take your camera around her and get with her. What? What has she done though? I want to know. Come on. Tell me this. Tell me this. Just be normal. No, I don't understand why you can't exercise control over your mouth.